Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of the Taking Back Comedy. In this episode, which was suggested to me by a friend of mine who I was talking to a couple days ago, because I didn't have anything else to go off of, because at the time, the riots were not going on, and I didn't realize how close to home they were going to head, so I guess we'll just wait on those, unless they die out within the week, which could very well happen. Anyway, so the topic that she had given me as a discussion since we were talking was that of paranormal experiences. So this one will be called Paranormal or Paranotnormal. And today this is going to be more on the side of what I've had to have happen, but also on the side of like going in line with what it is usually for the podcast, is taking that in a comedic route and running with it with some personal experiences down the line. So give me a second, let me get in the character and we'll get right into it. But first, a moment from our sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. I'm just kidding. So, paranormal experiences. Has anyone other than me had them? It's kind of a weird notion to ask you, because a lot of people probably will deny the fact that paranormal stuff happens. Does it happen? Are there such things as ghosts? Are we in a state of awareness that we know stuff like this happens? Well, yes and no. A good majority of people will probably denounce the fact that there is ghosts and there is paranormal or supernatural existences and happenings in the world. But the truth is quite complex. But I'm going to explain it in a simpler way for you guys. Yes, paranormal stuff exists. Anyone that says it doesn't exist don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. Because the truth of the matter is quite simple. Paranormal stuff has happened. And it happens predominantly to those who say it does not happen ever. Every scenario I've ever seen or witnessed always ends up like this. Ghosts aren't real. Come on, man. You're just making shit up. Basically, what it was just a breeze in your house that made the chair move. Yeah, the chair moved because of the breeze. That's also why they stacked themselves up on your goddamn dining room table like they were building a pyramid of chairs. And then, it happens to them and they almost immediately change their point of views. They almost change their point of views to the point where it's like, oh, fuck, I had this shit happen. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, this shit does happen. It's fucking weird. And then you, of course, got those few other people that go out of their way to still state that it doesn't happen. So what? It was a freak accident. It was probably just a commonplace criminal in my house. A criminal that only likes to move my iPod from the coffee table to the kitchen when I'm not looking. It had to be a really fast criminal because I only looked away for about a few seconds. But it happens. Criminals are very crafty. They're very crafty. I've seen a criminal in my backyard plant me a garden. I've seen it. I didn't call the cops on him because he's planting me a garden. But then he stole my wheelbarrow, so I should have called the cops. But I thought it was a nice gesture for him to build me a garden. So people like that always fascinate me because they always go out of the way to state stuff like paranormal stuff does not happen. No matter how much you have happened to them, they always deny it. And it's flabbergasted me because I've been able to see stuff unlike anything else. I've had my own experiences because we have a place in my hometown. We have the most haunted cemetery, basically in our state. The only one that beats it out is a cemetery that nobody else can get to unless you have been there before, because they have blocked it away so much so that it's covered in nothing but forest, and the road has been cleared out to the point where The road doesn't even make it out to the actual road anymore. You wouldn't be able to find it unless you're some fucking magician. Or you've been there before. And it's funny to me is the fact that a lot of people, again, still deny stuff like that. But I've seen plenty of ghosts. You can't deny ghosts. You can't deny the fact of there being a spirit. That whenever you pass, like what the major question that we all have. What happens when we die? When our mortal coil descends to a rapid and alarming rate and we pass away. What is to happen? Do we do what the Christians believe and state that we go to heaven? Is there a heaven? Or do we stay here on earth? Well, the simple but honest truth is, it's not what the Christians state. And I'm not going to give you the actuality of what the truth is because I don't want to divide a certain people. You know, I'd rather keep it as what fits best for how you feel. You know, but it's not a Christian faith thing. You know, I was raised as a Christian, and the truth of the matter is, yes, there may be a heaven or there may not be, but it's not as clear cut as the Christians would have you believe. It's not as clear cut as the Hindus would have you believe, or the Muslims, or the Jewish people. It's not that clear cut. You know, what it really amounts to is something that a lot of people are not comfortable with stating. Because a lot of people would tell you that what you see in movies does not play into anything that would be real. But the truth of the matter is quite simple. There is such a thing as dragons. Years ago, there was dragons. Was it as big and as blown out of proportion as movies would have you believe? No. But they do exist. I would state, by a way of looking at it, as dragons have existed. There's evidence for Bigfoot. The Loch Ness Monster is a creature that once existed. You know, and the Chupacabra does exist. There has been evidence to support the claims that there has been a creature that's kind of similar to the Chupacabra. Now, I'm not going to go out of my way to blow your minds and all that type of stuff just for the sake of blowing it. I would state that a lot of what's stated in the movies is obviously false. But the creatures that are being portrayed in the movies may not necessarily be, you know, fake. Stuff like vampires and werewolves and all that type of stuff, yeah, they all exist. No doubt in my mind. Because I've seen them. Of course, they're not like Hollywood plays them out, you know. Obviously, vampires don't go around in the middle of the day and start sparkling. And obviously, vampires don't do the normal motif of what you would think a vampire would do. Okay? What a vampire would normally do is just hide away in the dark. It's kind of like those creatures that you see in the movie The Descent is kind of what they look like. And those are closely related to that of what vampires would be. But all jokes aside from the actual creatures, there is a lot of people that I like to make fun of who don't believe in the supernatural. Because I believe anyone that doesn't believe in the supernatural is doomed to have it happen to them. I don't care what age you are. You could be in your 80s. You could be in your fucking 40s, 70s. Hell, you could be a fucking kid. Kids are more susceptible to see this kind of shit anyway. Okay? But it doesn't matter how old you are. You're going to end up seeing shit like this. And it's going to cause a lot of things to happen. And this comes the point where you start to realize that the world that we're living in isn't so much black and white as you originally thought. I mean, it's not like it was to begin with, but like less black and white than it was already. you know. And like I said, I like to make fun of them about that stuff. And if you want to hear some of my experiences, I'll tell you. I've been at places where I've seen men on fire coming down and all that type of stuff. I've seen all sorts of different junk. I've seen snake. I've seen people on shadow creatures. I've seen hellhounds. I've seen all sorts of different stuff that I can't even name them all off the top of my head because of how much I've seen. But I would like to go off of some of the funniest stories that I heard. Or I'll just go with the funniest story that I've ever heard. This might be a shorter podcast than usual. But the funniest story I've ever heard in my life right now is I used to hang out with this friend of mine for years. And he actually had a class with me in high school. And he looked at me in the middle of class one day. This is where we'll start it off, but this is not the beginning of it. And he stated to me this. He was like, "Hey, what do you know about demons and all that type of stuff? What should I use? Can I use holy water and all that type of stuff?" Goes into this huge flagrance of stuff about that. And I looked at him and I was confused because it came out of the blue. And this is a guy that no matter what the subject is, he usually is laughing his ass off about it because he doesn't take too much things seriously. So of course, whenever he's asking me this, he's in the middle of laughing. He's like, "Hey, if you have a demon in your house, what do you use? Can you like can you use like holy water?" I'm like, I guess so. Holy water doesn't really work that much, though. What you really need to do is get some sage. Oh, where do you get sage from? And that's a bit of an exaggeration. He didn't laugh at everything, but he did laugh off a lot of stuff. And he tells me this, and I'm like, I don't know. There was a store we had in town that you could go to get the stage. And I, told him to go there. Well, what had happened previously to that, I finally found out because he finally told me, was for a while he would be coming home late because he did not like living at his house because his parents and him were definitely not close. They did things that he didn't agree with. He didn't like being there. It felt like a prison to him. Now, whether or not it was true or not, I can't say for certain. I don't engage in that because that's none of my business. I just took him at his word. And I ended up hearing this, that there would be a couple nights that he would come home and he would be laying on the couch and he would fall asleep. And then in the middle of falling asleep, he woke up to his larynx being crushed and he was being choked to death, basically. And he would look up and he would see this old woman with no eyes in a black dress standing over him, choking the life out of him. And eventually he was able to, get away from it and regain his composure. Now that happened for 3 nights before it started getting to the point where he would just stay in his room at night because he didn't want to deal with it. And then he told me that's when he came in to this with me, because he asked me about the sage, and then him and Anthony both told me about what's going on, because I knew a little bit of what was going on, but not the full extent. And he told me that Anthony was there one day and had seen it, and had seen the ghost, and Anthony got freaked out. And he was like, okay, then this has got to stop. And he comes up to me with the sage and all that type of stuff, and he gets that, and it all ends up working out. They bless the room with the sage and all that type of stuff. I think he actually used holy water too on the door frames as well. So, doubly protected, doubly in quotations. And then here's the funny part. Late one night, he was staying in his room, and he had bunk beds at one point, and he was the bottom bunk. And he was staying the night. Wasn't doing anything. He was just laying on his bed watching TV. And he looks over, because in the door frame, which the door was open, he looked over and he noticed the woman there. And this is what he did. He basically looked at her because she couldn't get in. Basically, it was like a force field. And he just started laughing. And she would show an angry disposition. And he would just continue to laugh at her while she was getting mad. And she would just stare at him with this angry expression while he's laughing his ass off. And then all of a sudden, he was like, all right, I'm done with this. And took his underwear off. Because he was only in his boxers. Nothing else. Because it was a hot day when he told me this. This was in the summertime. So yeah, we have hot summers. And he took off his underwear. And he kicked it off. And he threw it at her. It went right into the hallway because it went right through her. And she begins to start pacing violently and aggressively in front of his door, like back and forth at rapid Usain Bolt speed, basically. And he started laughing his ass off because she couldn't get in, and keeps laughing. And then eventually he's like, you know what? I've had enough of this, and closes the door in her face. And he starts to head back to his actual bed, but then he hears a knock on the door. And he's like, really? Okay. Goes up to the door, puts his ear to the door. She knocks again. At this point, you would think that somebody who's already had the spirit attack them would think about it and think, maybe I should leave it alone now that the door's closed. I should just leave it alone. No, what he did was instigate it further by knocking back. She would knock on the door, he would knock back and laugh. She'd knock on the door, he'd knock on the door again and laugh. And then it would do that a couple times, and then eventually on the other end, he felt a big bang on the door to the point where it pushed his ear back. And he's like, you know what? I'm done. And he started laughing and went to bed, he stated. And that was the last time he had seen it in his room, but not the last time he would seen it in the house. There would be a few times that he stated that I would go to sleep if I was really tired on the couch, and it would be watching over me and all that type of stuff. So I actually just blessed the entire house at that point, and it went away. And when he was telling me this, I'm like, why did you pick a fight with a demonic entity? And he's like, because I thought it was funny. There's a lot of stories that you'll hear about my friend. In fact, if you want, I can do a podcast about it next time around, because there is a lot of stuff that we did when we were growing up, or when we were hanging out a lot. And this is just one of my favorite stories, because we were hanging out one night and that's what he was recollecting to me and stuff. But here's another paranormal story. And this one is this one's not a funny one. This is one that has actually happened to another friend of mine when I was at college. This friend of mine, I'm not going to give his real name for privacy issues, but we'll call him for short. We'll call him Luke. We'll call him Luke for short. Okay? And we ended up hanging out one night. Because I was off, the year that we had this happen, I was actually off in my own, like, little space of this house that was built, that was centered around the psychology students. If you were a psychology major, you could get into this house. And there was there was only me downstairs, and I'm the only guy, so I was downstairs. And there was about 4 women that lived upstairs. All of which were majors. One of them was graduating that year anyway. And I ended up getting to a point where I had already had a lot of troubles and whatnot, and this was one of the rare occasions that I was actually sleeping over there, because I had a lot of problems that year. With getting sick and dealing with stuff on top of it. So this night in particular, we were hanging out and we were watching videos on YouTube. scary based videos. It was like urban legends and creepypastas and stuff. And it was a video by the YouTuber Tats Top Videos. Shout out to them, or shout out to her, because she is great. Her, him, I can't remember. I'm sorry if I got the pronouns wrong, which I don't like to stress on, but if I got them wrong, please say so. And the video that was in question was top 15 image creepypastas, and we were sitting there and we were watching those, and we were seeing all this creepy stuff and happening. And of course we were doing this at like 2:30 in the morning, because like that's the best time, the witching hour, best time to get scared and watch creepypastas that could probably affect you. And all of a sudden we hear a knock on the window behind us, because it was open, which intensifies my fear of windows in general. And I look outside and there was nobody there. We went to the door, nobody there. I thought they would have came to the door. Nope, there was nobody. And I was like, okay, that's weird, but I let it go because nothing else happened that night. And he went home, or he went to his dorm and whatnot. Next day, I'm hanging out with another group of friends of ours, and we were talking for a while because we were in intermission, basically waiting for classes to start up for other classes. And he comes up behind me and he slaps a piece of paper, because the night previous we were doing that video, we were watching that video, but we were also talking about some of his past, and I'm not going to go into too much details with that because I don't know how he feels about that. But we were talking about his past, and then all of a sudden, it got really dark with that stuff and what he was dealing with per se, blah 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 blah. And then cut back to where I was. He comes up behind me and he slams a piece of paper on the table that I was sitting at and looks at me. And on top of that, not only does he slam the paper down on top of the table, he looks at me and says, "Look what happened last night." Apparently he had some knocking on the doors whenever he was trying to sleep, and he woke up to find an image carved out on a little piece of paper from like a notebook. And I'm not going to go into full details of the image, but it was a creepy, ghoulish image, to say the least. And I was like, okay, that's creepy. So I was like, you know what? Best way to handle it, I'm going to burn it. And I did. But it took me like 3 different tries to set it on fire. I had set it on fire one time unsuccessfully, because I got it. Well, the first time I wasn't able to get it on fire. The second time I got it on fire for the corner, and it flickered out pretty much immediately as soon as I got fire. So I was like, okay, that's weird. So I set it on fire the third time, and it eventually did get caught. And I ended up putting it in the bathroom sink and watering it down the drain to the point where it actually would go away completely. And that's that story. That is one of the most unique and weirdest experiences that I've ever had, next to finding a colt slitting a snake's throat in the middle of the cemetery that we usually went to. That's another story with my friend as well, but we'll get to that in the next podcast. But yes, basically what I would like to look at for paranormal experiences, and what I would like to see happen for paranormal experiences, is quite simple. I would like this to really happen. I would like us to really think about that. I would like to really think about the paranormal experiences that we've had in our lives, if we've ever had any. Or think about people that have talked to people about paranormal experiences. Really sink that in. Get that into your brain and think about what those experiences meant to those people and whatnot, and really generate a lot of those ideas. And then take that concept, put it away in a box, and then think about this concept on top of things, okay? What if our main perceptions of things were not real? Okay? What if there's more to this world than just the creatures that we've been found and us? Okay? Because we've only explored about 5% of the ocean. We don't know what's all down there. We don't know what could be down there. Okay? Hell, we don't know what all could be lurking in the shadows whenever we least expect it. So think about that. Think about all that stuff that could be unique and weird and all that type of stuff. But also think about the whole vampires and werewolves. And then really think about that, okay, as well. And you take those memories of the werewolves and the vampires that you've seen and all these other types of creatures that could be real, okay? You put them in separate boxes and you store them in your memory and you keep them in those memories and you keep them as a keepsake, okay? And you really think about them. And then whenever you have a rainy day, bring them out, think about it, and think critically on those issues. And then you take those memories, you combine them into one big memory about, well, maybe there's a good chance that there could be more to life than just, us. And you take those big memories and you really just ruminate on them. Okay? And then you shove that memory aside, you pop in Fright Night from 1985 and you watch something about those creatures and just destroy everything that you thought you had centered around goodness, and you fuck it all up. Because that's what we do. We take the paranormal experiences that we've had in our lifetime and we push them deep down sometimes. Because a lot of us don't want to be in tune with it. So we like to think, we're the only things in this world. And we look to the movies to see what is real and what isn't real. Vampires are not real. They come from the big screen. There's no way they could be real. That's a serial killer. Obviously, they're real. We don't like to talk about these horrific images or these horrific things in our minds that could be out there. Chupacabra? What chupacabra? Did you say taco chalupa? That's what I heard. Taco Bell is getting a new flavor of taco chalupa? Awesome. They don't want to think like I or a few other people do. They just want to look at those things and they say, there's a good possibility that demons do not exist because they have been in movies and they are very well portrayed. Yeah, that's what the movies would like to have you think. But let's really think about it. Do ghosts exist? Of course they do. Anybody that says otherwise is a filthy goddamn liar, okay? They exist. We all have spirits around us, guardian angels, actual angels, archangels, it wouldn't matter, all sorts of different angels. The booze angel's the one I really want to meet the most, but he never comes around because he never gives me any kind of good booze. You know what he gives me? He gives me a present of a dead rat every Christmas. Okay? And I really want us to think on this. I really do, because I really want us to take our judgmental sides, shove them off to the side, and really analyze what it is. Because all we're doing is we think about that stuff for like a short little period of time, and then we just shove it away because there's no way in hell ghosts are real, vampires are real, or werewolves are real, or anything like that. There is things to this world that we'll never fully understand because a lot of us are not at that heightened mindset to understand or really to want to understand that. And I really need you to really think about your bias on that and shove it off to the side for a little bit and really analyze, is there a possibility of other stuff in the world? Okay? And then you take that notion of could there be other stuff beside us and apply it to aliens, okay? And realize that, yeah, there's a good possibility that aliens exist too. But don't overdo it with aliens, okay? Don't just get to the point where you start having a freaky hairdo and believe aliens created everything. Don't go that far. Okay, because then we're going to have to legally change all your names to Georgia. Okay, and we don't want that. But take what I've been saying here tonight and honestly reevaluate your actions, your understanding of that, and use it to your benefit. To really think of it as what it could be. Okay, and understand that there's a good possibility that paranormal experiences do exist. Okay, I've talked about some of mine. If you want more of these and you want a part 2, by all means, I'd be more than willing to give it to you. But my goal for this is to try to make it funny, and unfortunately, I didn't have a chance of making it funny. It's called Taking Back Comedy, but I was able to get a little bit of some punchlines in there. I think the best story that I could have told for this, I have told, which is the one about my friend. To ease the tension of what I was trying to get at. But that is the thing. And I hope you all have a blessed night tonight. Stay safe and keep yourself busy. Everything that was happening will be over soon. Trust me. So, I will see you in the next episode where I will be talking about my friend, and it'll be a bigger comedic episode next time around. Okay? So, until then, my trapezoids, your friendly neighborhood commentator is out. Peace out, guys.